Hello, it's Tom from BlackToad Studio, and here in front of you is 1850 points of Black Templars for a battle report today. So, without further ado, let's pop in here and now see what we have brought with us this time. So, HQs down here, we're actually going to have Helbrecht in, Emperor's Champion, and a Chaplain with Jump Pack. Obviously, for those of you who haven't been living under a rock, there was a chapter approved drop, which has actually put some point drops there quite favourably for some of, well, not just Black Templar units, but a lot of Marine units. So I thought I'd roll out some of these and see what I could fit into a kind of a newly thought out list. Troop choice wise, we're going to swing over here to the left slightly. We have a squad of Intercessors times 10, all standardly armed, no power weapon on the Sergeant, just a standard heavy bolt pistol in Edition. We have Crusader Squad number 1 and Crusader Squad number 2. They are both exactly the same. They have two neophytes to cap them off at 12 men. They have a Sword Brother with a power sword, and also in there is a plasma gun. Other than that, they're all armed with chainswords and bolt pistols. Just to bring it into the heavy support slot at the back here, we have two Land Raider Crusaders, all stock. I didn't bother putting multi-melters or anything on them. It's just literally the assault cannons and the Hurricane bolters on the side, and they will hopefully be taking these two Crusader squads to victory with either the Emperor's Champion or Helbrecht, and one in each. Over to the right here, one more heavy choice at the back here, which is obviously a relic as well. So that is the relic Leviathan. Only managed to afford one hunter killer missile on there, so I know it's got 3 model on there, but it's only going to be able to use 1, and everything else on there is as shown, so the storm cannon as well. And finally here, elite choice wise, we have 2 Reaver squads, both 5-man, and the only upgrade I've given them is the grapnel launchers, so they've got a bit of board edge control if they want to come on there, or we can just put them on the table depending on what happens and who I'm playing, etc. And also they ignore terrain movement, so we'll see what happens with them. So that, and also this is a battalion, and everything that obviously as Helbrecht is my warlord, he'll be having the Sword of High Marshal as his relic choice defaultly. So that is everything. Back in a minute with the next army. And here is 1850 points of Deathguard and Demons, and I think we have a battalion and a vanguard. Is that right? Or
2 battalions.
Actually 2 battalions.
Yes,
so
2 battalions.
A battalion of Deathguard and a battalion of Demons. So let's start with the Deathguard bits, pardon me, and they are located in the middle here for HQ choices. So
okay, so apologies for any confusion today, but that is Typhus for the purpose of this game.
Yeah.
I have a new model, but it's not yet painted up, so thought the newer Lord of Contagion model fits his kind of size
Fair
better.
enough. Yeah.
We then have a Plague Surgeon next to him.
Yep.
And behind them a Deathguard Land Raider with las cannons.
Fantastic. And then you've got troop choices obviously for your Deathguard.
Absolutely. So we've got 2 squads of Plague Marines, both with double special weapons, which are plasma guns.
And I think one in a Rhino.
One is in a Rhino, that's
Fantastic.
right.
And then any other troop choices for that? Is that the Poxwalkers or?
That is the Poxwalkers over there, which is 20 Poxwalkers with the Noxious Blightbringer in front of them just there.
Okay, now I presume the Demon jiggery pokey here, is this
So that is the Great Unclean one. It's the old Forge World model, but again kind of fits the size quite nicely.
Fine.
And then we have 2 lots of 20 Plague Bearers.
Here, here and here, yeah.
In the middle of those you have a Sloppity Baal Piper. Lovely name.
Lovely name. And then obviously that's a Nurglings there to round out.
And then finally for the Death Guard, apologies, we have just here a
sorcerer, yeah, sorry.
My custom model I've made up.
It all blends in with the green, so.
It does indeed. So that's what I brought.
So that's it. So quite a nice amount of command points there. We'll be back in a minute with deployment and mission. Just before we go on to the mission and deployment, this is not a Sloppity Baal Piper, it's a Poxbringer.
Yes.
So just mislabeled. So just in case you want to cause any confusion there, and back in a second. Okay, so here we are. This is this 1850 point battle report of Black Templars versus Demons and Deathguard. For the mission we chose, it's called Vital Intelligence. It's from the new chapter approved book, one of their Eternal War ones, and very simply is an objective marker here, 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 and here. And essentially they're all worth 1 point normally. However, at the beginning of each battle round you roll a d6. If the number comes up, that particular objective is worth 2. There's also Slay the Warlord, First Strike, and Line Breaker in play. So, as you can see here, deployment-wise, the Templars have chosen this side. We chose deployment, and then Daryl got to deploy his entire army first, as per the new Eternal War rules. So over here we have the Leviathan. We had a combat squadded Intercessor squad here, one of the Land Raiders with Helbrecht in it, the other Land Raider with the Emperor's Champion, and also this half the Intercessor squad here. In reserve, we're keeping back a Chaplain with Jump Pack and 2 squads of 5 Reavers. For the other opposing heretical team, over here we have obviously got a Rhino with some Plague Marines in it, some Plague Bearers, a nice little chap in the looking out his windows in there. He's got a nice view just over there from his cess tub, and then another squad of Plague Bearers in here, and Rhino. Sorry, Rhino, Land Raider, and the various other bits of Poxwalkers and Typhus sitting on this side of the battlefield. So, at the moment, the rules state that the person to entirely deploy their army first goes first. So, as Daryl did do that because he got to deploy his entire army first, which I find a bit weird, I am currently going second, unless I roll a 6. So, let's see what we have. Oh, and that is a 5. So, we'll be back very shortly with turn 1 for Deathguard and Demons. Yeah. So as we join Deathguard and Demons in the first round here, the movement phase has ended, and as you can see there's been a general move across the line for all of the green tide here. So it's moving here, so Plague Bearer units moved up, the Great Unclean ones moved up in here, another move in the middle here, Land Raiders even come up here, and all of this Poxwalker squad and all their various special characters to give them support have all moved up. So that's pretty much it for movement. Pretty simple, pretty quick forward moving for no. There's a lot of running because I think everything ran pretty much, apart from the Land Raider, because obviously that's got some weapons that can do some serious damage. So that's the end of movement. We'll come back in a minute with some psychic and shooting. Okay, so at the end of the psychic and shooting down here we have Putrescent Vitality and Miasma of Pestilence go off on the Poxwalkers here. We did also have an attempt to cast something over here, but the Templars used their stratagem to deny that with the 4-up. And finally here the las cannons from the Land Raider here opened up into my Land Raider there and took 4 wounds off it, so that is now down to 12. But other than that, that is pretty much it. I don't think we've got any assaults. Nope. No, so we're going to mosey on over to the Black Templars, turn 1. So as the Black Templars finish their turn 1 movement here, both Land Raiders have moved to the centre here, sensing it's going to be quite a strong area of conflict. I didn't really fancy coming down this right flank just yet. So I've moved the Land Raiders into the best shooting positions they can get. I also moved up this Intercessor squad to secure this objective, and this Intercessor squad to get this objective, and the Leviathan here has moved this way, so he's got a choice of targets in the middle or off to his left if he wants to. So we'll back in a minute with a hail of fire. Okay, so as the Templars shooting winds down in turn 1, as you can see here, this Plague Bearer squad has been decimated down by, I think it was 13 killed, was it now?
13 killed. 13
killed, and we had, I think, another, how many was off this left squad?
5.
5 off the left squad there, and that was basically combined, well, the central squad was basically decimated by the 2 Crusaders here, obviously. I was just trying to whittle them down a bit because I didn't want to get bogged down in lots of people. So that is the end of the shooting because there wasn't much else that actually happened. We're just going to quickly do some leaderships, and then we'll come back with what the scores were at the end of that battle round. Okay, so at the end of that battle round, the leaderships were obviously taken here, and that unfortunately wiped out the rest of the Plague Bearers there, which gave me first strike in my first turn. But I also held 1 objective here and 1 objective here, so that gave me essentially 3 points at the end of my battle round. However, Daryl also got 3 points for holding that point back there and also holding the active objective back there. So at the moment, it is 3 apiece. We'll be back in a minute with Deathguard Demons, turn 2. Okay, so here we go with the forces of Nurgle, I'm going to call them now, because they're all Nurgle. Turn 2. So again, we've had a pretty big move and disembarkation this round. So had a Plague Marine squad get out here, and its Rhino shuffle around the side here. So they've put a bit of threat into these Intercessors and also the rear of this Leviathan. Not that it matters too much nowadays. In the middle here, we've had a general movement of the Great Unclean one. He's moved into the slot vacated by the Plague Bearers. With the, I think the Pox, was it the Poxbringer? The Land Raiders shuffled up a bit and dropped, well, first of all he dropped out his contents there, and now he's squaring off against 2 Land Raiders there, which should be interesting. Over here, the Nurglings have jumped off the walls and landed in a small goopy pile down there, and the Poxwalkers have shuffled around this side, really starting to close the threat in on this right-hand side as well. So that is all the movement. We'll be back in a minute with Psychic and Shooting. Okay, so as Nurgle finished their psychic and shooting, down here the Land Raiders took the brunt of the damage, I think. So the one that was already damaged is down to 7 wounds. That was combined efforts from las cannons, but also some smiting going on here from these units during the psychic phase as well. So that's down to 7, and over here, he is down to 10. That was from a las cannon and also plasma shots. However, during the plasma fusillade, unfortunately Daryl lost both his plasma guys to slaying due to one's roll to hit. I think over here we had the usual thing to get the -1 to hit over here. So usual affair from Nurgle, various psychic powers. However, that over this side over here, we also had some shots come into the back of the Leviathan from the plasmas, taking off 2 wounds. And the rest of the shots went into the incest here and they lost 1 body. So that is the end of psychic and shooting. I think we will probably have a little bit of combat this round, I have a suspicion. So we'll be back in a minute. Okay, so as Nurgle end their fighting phase, down here we had the Land Raider charge in with a squad of Plague Marines. They actually managed to take off 1 wound on this Land Raider in combat, so a bit annoying, but nothing too out there. That's pretty much it, because we had some failed charges over here from the Plague Bearers, and nothing else recharged. So we'll now head into Black Templars turn 2. So as turn 2 commences for the Templars, there's been a general disembarkation and a little reverse from the Land Raider Crusaders here, as you can see. So they've, after dumping their contents in the front here, they have both moved back. So at the moment we have Crusader Squad here, we've got the Emperor's Champion in the middle here, and Helbrecht sitting on the left-hand side there, along with the Leviathan that's come around here, because obviously I believe he's probably one of the only things that can deal with this thing here effectively, even if it can. Over here we had the Incestors move up around the objective, and on this side we had 1 Reaver squad drop in here with the Chaplain, and also 1 Reaver squad at the back there to try and cut this squad off at least, or slow them down for another turn or 2, which might or may not work for them. But also we noticed we had Typhus on the flank here, so possibly we can get a couple of wounds on him. We shall see. So that's movement. We'll now come back in a minute with the shooting. Okay, so as the shooting phase winds down for the Templars in turn 2, in the middle here we have the Leviathan, who opened up every bit of weaponry into the Great Unclean One, along with all the weaponry in this squad here, and that we took it down to 7 wounds. So that's pretty good going, to be honest, considering we didn't have a lot of shooting by the Leviathan. In the middle here we had this squad fire into the Plague Marines and kill 1 man in the end, bit of a contrast there. Over here this squad of Incestors fired into the Nurglings and took 1 base off, but it was actually only 1 wound in the end. And over here, the combined might of all the pistols in the world over here fired into the Poxwalkers and killed 1 man. So yeah, that wasn't brilliant. However, we'll now move on into the assault phase, because yes, we do have some assaults to declare, and let's see if the Templars can swing into their direction the victory. So as the Templars wind up their fight phase in turn 2, a lot of the action happened in the middle of the table. Over here we've managed to get the Unclean One down to 1 wound, which was a bit frustrating, considering I had to use 3 command points to fight again with that infantry unit to actually get him down to that point anyway. However, really good hustle, and the Leviathan did most of the damage. Helbrecht and the Emperor Champion piled into this Land Raider, and also along with this squad here, and it's now down to 9 wounds. Unfortunately over here we managed to take one of the Nurgling bases down to 1 wound, and over here we took 1 wound off Typhus. It was a pretty bad combat phase. However, I think Daryl had equally bad back in the with his Poxwalkers, and even I think Typhus managed to kill 2 of them out of the 5, so not too bad, not too brilliant. However, that is the end of turn 2 in its entirety, and on this turn I have managed to score. We've got 1 point here, I've got 1 point under the Land Raider. As I've got troop choices on the centre there, I'm also holding that one there, so I've actually got 3 points this turn. Daryl was actually holding the active objective, so he gets 2. And I think that's, yeah, so 3 for me and 2 for Daryl. So we'll be back in a minute with turn 3. Okay, so at the end of the movement phase in turn 3 for the forces of Nurgle. First of all, when Daryl did roll for the objective to be active, it is this one here, which is number 1, which actually worked out quite nicely for him, I think. So as you can see here, all these units have moved towards that objective to try and swamp it. In the middle of the table here, the Great Unclean One has backed out. He also did try to recover some wounds, but only managed to get one back. The Land Raider has stayed put, probably quite sensible because it is tying up a lot of things in the middle. And obviously that would force me to have to back out of combat next turn if I wanted to. Over here, the Plater has shot through here. Obviously, he's got a couple of targets here. Maybe try and take this Land Raider out of action, or possibly just go for the Intercessors here, or this squad here. And then finally over here, we had the Sorcerer jump over to this side of the board, obviously getting a line of sight on these guys, and also the chap back here has moved in to
Typhus's Plague.
Oh, Typhus's Plague as well. We'll do that on camera quick. Let's just do it down here.
Chaplain, 4+.
Yes.
Takes a mortal wound.
So Chaplain's taken a wound.
And then the Reaver unit.
No, so the Chaplain has taken a wound. So I think he's down to 3. I'll just double check that. Okay. So that is the end of the movement phase. We'll now head on into Psychic and Shooting. Okay, so it's the Psychic phase and Shooting phase end for the Nurgle forces in turn 3. In the middle here we had Leviathan cut down to 9 wounds. That was basically a little in conjunction from some psychic powers here and some other bits that actually caused quite a few wounds on it in the end, because it was on 12. In here we lost a couple more guys from Psychic shooting as well, as in Smite rather. In the middle here, nothing really too bad happened, to be honest. Moving on to this side of the board, Typhus releases a Destroyer Hive, managed to take a wound off another guy there. Also, the Chaplain took a wound from, I think, what was that from?
That was we already got that in the film.
Oh, that was in the film. Sorry, pardon me. We did that earlier. That is, excuse me. And then over this side of the board, we had lots of shooting piled into these Intercessors. Unfortunately, with the overcharged plasmas, it did result in 1 plasma being killed. However, it did take out 2 of the Intercessors, so it's not looking too good on this side of the board. That is all of it. We'll now head on into the combat phase. So at the end of Nurgle turn 3, over here, these Intercessors got charged by the Rhino and the Plague Marines, and they, I think they went down. I don't think they lost too many in that particular combat. In fact, I don't think they lost anything, so they're still on 2. In the middle here, however, the Great Unclean One charged in and took out the majority of this squad here, taking out 5 of their number. We have done leadership on them, they're okay. In the middle here, there was a bit of back and forth against the Land Raider, getting it down to 6 wounds, but nothing really done to my forces. However, Darryl lost 2 more Plague Marines there. 1 more Nurgling base got removed. The Plagueis ran in and didn't do too much, sadly, although I'm sure he's got time to recoup his losses on that particular one. And then over here, pretty bad for me. All of the Reavers bar 1 have been wiped out, plus the Chaplain was kind of like pulled down by Poxwalkers and probably turned into one, I think, because 1 came back. So not pretty for him. So that is the end of Nurgle turn 3. When I head on to Templars turn 3. Okay, so as Templars end their movement phase in turn 3, as you can see here, this Land Raider has moved down a little bit because he can only move 5 inches at the moment, just towards this area. Obviously, he can still fire its guns at full rate. This Land Raider stayed put because there wasn't really anywhere for him to go anyway. He's got plenty of target opportunity. The Intercessors backed out of combat just so they can get a screen across this side of the Land Raider if needed. This squad has stayed in combat with the Land Raider because they don't want it shooting next round if it does come out of combat, if we move out of combat. However, Helbrecht and the Emperor Champion are starting to move this way of the board because I think they're going to be more required over here, but due to the massive amounts of characters that have accumulated on this side of the board. And over here, the Reavers have decided to make a little jump over this way to try and take on this guy back here. I don't know if that'll go too well for them, probably not, but we shall see. Centre of the board, the Leviathan has made a move away from the Great Unclean One because there is plenty of weapons to shoot at it, but I feel like the Land Raider needs to be taken care of, and he's probably the best unit to deal with it. Because there's not, I think there's only 2. Is it 2 wounds left on the Great Unclean One now? Yeah, so hopefully the shooting can deal with them. And these 2 have stayed put just out of combat here from last round, so they're not going to do anything. And obviously the Intercessors over here are pretty much stuck in this area, probably going to lose that point in combat. So we'll now head on into Black Templars shooting. Okay, so at the end of Templars turn 3 shooting. Over here we had nothing happen because there was nothing out of combat to shoot. In the middle, however, most of the action happened. The Leviathan finished off the Great Unclean One with all of its firepower shooting into it, which is good. However, all the pistols here and also anyone else that didn't come out of combat shot into the Land Raider and didn't actually take anything off it in the end, I don't think. Then in conjunction, this Crusader and this Crusader shot into the Poxwalkers, and I think they took, how many was it now, 5 or 6? I think it was 5 or 6. Oh, it was 7 actually, 7 off in total, which is good. Nothing else could shoot. Oh, except for the heavy bolt pistols here, but they didn't do anything to him down there, sadly. So that is all the shooting. We're now going to head on to the combat phase, see if we can take a couple more units off the board. Okay, so as the Templars end turn 3, some pretty horrific things happened actually, sadly. So over here, this is the good side of the board at the moment, because nothing actually happened over here. Nothing happened in that combat over there, apart from Overwatch, which managed to kill one guy who's already on 1 wound. Over here, obviously, this isn't going to combat. Now, in the middle over here, as you can see, the Land Raider's gone, but also Hellbreak's disappeared, and so has the Emperor's Champion. And the Leviathan's on 3 wounds. So what happened there was Daryl paid his last command point to make sure his Land Raider exploded. And then did D6 wounds to everything in the vicinity. Unfortunately, he rolled a 6 on Hellbreak and a 6 on the Emperor's Champion, so they were well and truly messed up. The Leviathan just about survived, although he did take 6 wounds as well, so it was 3 6s in a row actually.
Crazy.
Land Raider took 3 and the squad here took 2. Everything else is pretty much intact, bar I think the Plague Marine here took one guy died from him there.
Oh, you chipped a wound off the pox.
Oh, chipped wound off the Pox Marine as well. Over here we lost one more guy, another intercessor over here. However, it hasn't really changed this side of the table that much because I think it was already in Daryl's hands. So that is the end of turn 3. So scores wise, Daryl actually got Slay the Warlord in that round. He also holds the active objective for another 2 points there. I don't know, that one's out, and no other points because everything else is contested, and I get 1 point for holding the one that's currently under the Land Raider. So that is the end of turn 3. We're back in a minute with turn 4. So as Nurgle turn 4 movement comes to an end, over here the Poxwalkers, along with all the characterful creations over here, have made their way this flank here. The Intercessor's trying to hold the line there, however it's quite a lot to take care of. In the middle here, the Poxbringer has sat directly on the objective, making sure he's claimed it as best as he can. Back here, the Plague Bringers have unfortunately locked down number 3. There's nothing really much I can do about that. And obviously down here, this is still all in a bit of a woeful situation for the Templars in that corner. So that's the movement. We'll now go on to some psychic and shooting for Nurgle. So as turn 4, psychic and shooting end for Nurgle over here. Another wacky pistol shot overcharge took out another Reaver, which is just becoming slightly irritating. Over here, unfortunately, the Intercessors took a brunt of psychic and shooting, knocking them down to just 2 men. There was obviously some smite here, and also one of the abilities took out the last Reaver there as well, which is not good. Centre of the board, this little chap here did try to smite the Leviathan. However, I denied it using All the Witch because I wasn't going to have him dying to a smite. Other than that, some various pistol shots flew in. Nothing else really happened. So let's roll on into the combat phase and see what happens to the Templars. And Nurgle charges in. Okay, so at the end of Nurgle turn 4, not a lot happened. However, we did go down to 1 Intercessor. He managed to pass his leadership on a 1, pretty impressive, and the Land Raider has just about survived not being in combat there somehow. The squad here managed to finish off the lone Nurgling base and is now consolidated towards this little crew over here. In whatever wisdom there was in it, the remaining Plague Marine charged the Leviathan and died horrifically in burning fire. Over here, however, again, the Reaver's not doing too well back there. I think they need a little bit of support from someone to try and kill him, but they are at least tying him up, I suppose. Not that it matters that much. And sadly over here, the final Intercessor met a bloody end. Anyway, we will now move on into turn for the Templars and see if they can mop up a couple of things in the middle and try and secure some form of points. So at the start of Templars turn 4, over here this combat obviously is resuming, so no movement back here. However, movement-wise in the middle, the Land Raider has managed to escape into the centre there and had a Crusader squad form a screen, while the last Intercessor here has fallen back out of combat to open up all these units to any kind of firepower that we can lay down them. This Land Raider here has moved up within 3 inches of that objective and is obviously going to try and blast the remaining character off there because it is now the nearest unit, just to make sure we can hold at least one more objective. The Leviathan is shuffled as far as it can do. It can only move 3 inches at the moment, so it's not brilliant for it. But we'll see what happens as we move on to the shooting phase and see if we can maybe take a couple of the units off the board. Okay, so at the end of Black Templars shooting in turn 4, down here we finally cleared out the medic over here, well, or the Nurgle version of a medic. He took a lot of firepower from basically all the pistols that were close, and also the Leviathan, which actually was the closest unit here, which is actually quite helpful because that's actually what finished him off. And then that enabled the Land Raider Crusader here to open up and finish off pretty much all of the Poxwalkers there, leaving them with just 2. And then finally over here, this Land Raider shot into the Poxbringer there, clearing off the objective, and now he's just in range to secure that, which is good. Oh, and also there was a couple of pistol shots around here into this cursed bell carrier, and we'll now, I didn't do anything there unfortunately, so we'll now move on into the combat phase for the Black Templars in turn 4. Okay, so at the end of turn 4, and also the Templars' turn there, over here we managed to wipe out the remaining 2 Poxwalkers, which obviously wasn't too difficult. And then over here, this combat ended up in a complete stalemate again, so it's really just not really going anywhere back there, not brilliant. So obviously at the end of that turn, points-wise, I've scored 2 here, 1 here and 1 in the middle, because I'm just arranged that one. However, Daryl got 2 for holding the main objective over, sorry, at the back there, sorry, the main objective at the back there, so actually it's 2 points apiece again, because no one else holds any other objectives. So that is the end of turn 4. We're going to head into turn 5 for Nurgle, and we'll see what happens. So just before I show what Daryl moved around the table in turn 5, what actually happened here was when we rolled to see which objectives were in play, as per the beginning of each battle round, we rolled a 6, which means that all objectives this turn are worth 2 points. So every objective is now worth gold dust. So movement-wise, as you can see here, Daryl's moved his Rhino this way because it does give him line breaker, but also he's hugged both these objectives here. So it has actually affected the way he's moved his people around. And over here, obviously, Typhus and the Sorcerer are trying to encroach on this area here. Back here, obviously, there's a potential for me to get to that rear point there if I disengage from combat when it's my turn, because obviously the points are only scored at the end of the whole battle round. So let's see what happens in the psychic and shooting phases for Nurgle. So as Nurgle finishes its psychic and shooting, it has managed to sort of clear out most of the Marines down here. 6 have died. However, also Typhus very unfortunately rolled a perils and then rolled the maximum amount of wounds for himself. So he's put him down to 2 wounds, so not good news for him. Over here, again, the pistol has taken out another one. Every turn so that pistol's taken one out, so he's down to 1 guy on 1. So it's bound to that combat now, whether he survives and he can run away to that objective. Other than that, there was a few shots that came in from over here into the Land Raider, but they did nothing. And obviously in the middle here, we're still trying to see what happens with this little bit of a survival here in the combat phase in a minute. So let's head on to Nurgle turn 5 combat and see what happens. Okay, so as turn 5 for Nurgle comes to an end, over here, the unfortunate remaining Reaver met its end to a bell to the head. And then over here, Typhus did his job very well, taking out the remaining Intercessor. Also, the Sorcerer tried to charge the other Sergeant, which had an overcharged plasma pistol on, and I managed to kill him. So that wasn't particularly sensible, but at the same time, I was trying to kill him. So that's the end of turn 5 for Nurgle. I do have my vehicles left still. So let's see what happens in Black Templars turn 5. Okay, so at the end of movement for turn 5, what I have done is I have moved this Land Raider Crusader in range of that objective and put right in front of Typhus so he can always get him as a target. The Leviathan over here as a backup, because obviously he's got a target on this guy if we can get rid of Typhus, but if not, then I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with him. Unless he can see. We'll see if we can see someone through there, but I don't think he can, sadly. And then this Land Raider Crusader has moved up onto this objective here to secure it properly. But that is it for now, so we'll come back in a minute after the shooting phase. Okay, so at the end of turn 5 for the Black Templars, so I'm not going to be charging, the the shooting that I had done did everything I needed to do. So Typhus is dead here, so that now leaves the Land Raider in charge of that objective. The Leviathan then decided to shoot over at these Plague Marines over here, along with the busted up Land Raider, but only managed to take 2 out of them in total, so nothing really good there. So that is the end of turn 5. So scores-wise, obviously we add them up now. I got Slay the Warlord, which I've already added on. I've also got this point here and this point here, which gives me 4 more, because they're all active this turn. So I'm on 14. Now I think Darryl, unfortunately, has exactly the same, because he holds this objective over here and this one over here. So we're actually now both on 14. And at the moment, Darryl does have Line Breaker if the game ends, which would mean he would win if it ends now. So Darryl's going to roll dice, and if he gets a 3 or higher, we carry on. And we're carrying on another turn. So we're going to come back in a minute with Nurgle, turn 6. Okay, so at the start of Nurgle, turn 5. A bit of movement here. So Darryl's actually managed to get Sorcerer to contest that one. He's got his Plague Bell sitting over there. And he also owns this particular one quite easily, along with this one here. So he's got all 4 objectives around the outside, well, locked up at least to some point. So I'll head over to the Psychic and Shooting and see if he can chip off any wounds from my vehicles. Okay, so at the end of turn 5 Nurgle Psychic and Shooting, some plasma rounds went into the back of this Land Raider and managed to take it down to 1, but no other rounds hurt it. So that's coming from bolter shots from here and also from the squad down here. The Sorcerer over here did try to do some damage here and actually managed to get 3 wounds off the Land Raider, and then also buffed himself with a little bit of extra toughness to keep himself safe. Other than that, nothing else has happened. We're now going to see what Darryl can do in combat, if he is going to do any combat. Are you doing any combat, Darryl?
I'm thinking about it.
He's thinking about it. Well, we'll come back with combat phase in a minute. If not, we'll come back with Black Templars. So here we are in the end game and turn 5 for Nurgle. Darryl did charge in the end, and he actually, well, also forgot about a rule for casting 2 spells from him, which gave
Pestilential Fallout.
Fallout. So basically got 2 more mortal wounds on him, which has got him down to 5, but unfortunately the combat did nothing. So nothing else for to do in this particular round so far, so we'll head on to Black Templars, turn 6. Okay, so at the end of turn 6 for Templars, down here, the Land Raiders are obviously barely hanging on, but we managed to kill the Sorcerer over here, just about. We did also then fire in over here at this Plague Bell, as I'm calling it now, and it managed to get down to 1 wound, which wasn't quite enough to take off the objective. So actually at the end of turn 6 in its entirety, I've got 2 points here. However, Darryl's got 1 for here, 1 for here, but also 2 at the back there, so a 4. And I've got 2, so 2 to 4 there. I think Darryl has a dice ready, because we're going to see if this carries on a 4 up. It does. So on we go to turn 6 to see what happens. Okay, so at the beginning of turn 7 for Nurgle here, just to let you know, the objective that was active is number 2 at the back over here. Which is where Darryl was. However, he's obviously got 1 wound, so in his movement phase he's moved this way, I think just to try and possibly have a pop at one of these guys here, because as he's in the lead anyway, it doesn't really matter him getting those 2 points unless I can pull some miraculous stuff out of the bag, because obviously over here everything has to stay put because they're already on an objective, so there's no point moving them. So that is the end of the movement phase. We're back in a minute. Have we got any psychic now?
No, you have killed every
So
single
we
psychic.
just got a bit of shooting to do and we're back in a minute. Okay, so at the end of turn 7 for Nurgle, unfortunately the Plague Bell here has died, so the main objective over there is actually out of play, but I can't get to it definitely in my turn. Had some more shots fire into here, didn't do anything, which is good for the Land Raider. These 2 units obviously still escaped unscathed, so we're now heading on into turn 7 for the Templars. I think the scores are currently 16-18. You on?
Indeed.
So Darryl's on 18, I'm on 16. So I'll see what I can do. You never know, I might pull some miraculous thing off, but unfortunately because he's got Line Breaker here, I'm going to have to do something about the Rhino and also one of these units here to even up. So let's see what happens in turn 7 for the Templars. Okay, so at the end of turn 7 for the Templars, not quite went to plan because I was a little bit out of range to shoot at the things I wanted to because I couldn't come off this objective over here basically. Did manage to whittle that unit down to 1, but it wasn't enough to do anything meaningful. So basically at the end of turn 7, I scored another 2 points here, having held this one here and the one in the middle. And Daryl, as it's the last turn, got line breaker here. He also got 1 point there and 1 point there, so he got another 3. So at the end of this mammoth little game of 7 turns, we actually ended on a scores of Nurgle and Deathguard Demons on 21 points and the Black Templars on 18. All in all, really good little game though, to be honest. It was looking a bit weird in the middle with all the explosions and stuff, but it came out to be quite a close game. How do you feel about that? All good? Have a good game? Enjoy your Deathguard in that one?
In the middle, I think
yes.
It's that Land Raider exploding, my favourite.
Oh, definitely. I think taking out all the leaders. I think if one of my leaders survived, it might have tipped the balance in my favour a little bit more in this table.
Nurgle's blessings.
Yes.
A little bit there.
Yes, quite. And obviously, we played one of the new missions. I actually found it fairly balanced, to be honest. Seemed pretty good. I like the randomly activating objectives because it kind of gave both sides a bit of a chance. Although I will say in this particular case, it seemed like Nurgle had a slightly a lot on this side of the table, not a lot on mine. But anyway, at the end of the day, it was all a good game. Had a good laugh. So from myself here, Tom at BlackToad Studio, I will see you soon.